I was a freshman at community college in 2018, and I am a female. My mom had just unexpectedly passed away a week before this incident. That Tuesday was my first day back at college. Yes, my father made me come back to college less than a week after I found my mom dead from a drug overdose. So I totally wasn't ready for it, more like forced to act normal. I went to a community college with a vocational program. My program combined regular classes with hands-on training in a specific trade. The hands-on training took place at a separate workshop campus across town where we'd practice our skills. Now for my story. It was a semi-normal day, even though I had just gone through the most traumatic event of my life a week ago. I was pretty much emotionless after spending a whole week crying my eyes out. I was just over it and wanted to get through the day. After lunch, I got on my motorcycle to head to the workshop campus. I enjoyed the vocational program a lot. I was actually looking forward to it. The workshop campus was less than 20 minutes away from the main campus. Not a long trip at all. I'm riding down the icy road, and someone in front of me stops to turn. I notice a car behind me, a black Dodge Charger with tinted windows. The driver was swaying something out of the window. He's a young guy, all alone. I assumed he was just waving something with the music and paid no mind. A little further down the road, someone else in front of me stops to turn. We're at a dead stop, waiting for the other lane to clear so the guy ahead can cross. I had my visor up, despite it being a freezing January evening. Then, looking in my mirrors, I noticed the guy behind me was staring at me. He was pointing the object at me, lunging it, and yelling out the window. He shouted that I was an idiot who didn't know how to ride. I'm thinking just how weird this whole thing is. I'm just waiting for this guy to turn. I know that I didn't do any stupid riding previously. I thought this made no sense at all. I flipped my visor down. My college workshop building was less than 5 minutes away at this point. I'm still being a little paranoid and looking in my mirror at this guy. Then I see him take the object, which I still couldn't see well enough to identify. He took it across his throat as if he was slicing it. Then he pointed it at me. He was also accelerating, riding my rear wheel, then backing off. My heart starts racing because I know this guy isn't joking at this point. I figured that once I turned into the workshop campus, he would keep on driving, just a crazy case of road rage. I'm still scared though. I turned into the campus and pulled forward into a spot. The guy whipped in and parked directly behind me. I noticed some other female students in their cars beside me, getting their books together. I signaled to them to stay in their cars. Then this crazy muscular guy comes up to me as I was getting off my bike. He was holding a knife. That's what he was waving out the window this whole time at me, a huge hunting knife. I have no idea how I didn't notice that it was a knife. His face was so close to mine. His eyes were bulging and bloodshot. He had short dark hair with veins popping out of his neck. He's about 28 years old and extremely muscular, like he spends every day at the gym. He truly looked scary and pissed. He told me to get back on the bike and started grabbing my arm. When I shook my head no, he then took the knife and pressed it against my throat, just below where my helmet ended. Then he grabbed my jacket collar and started pulling me toward him. I was still wearing my motorcycle helmet, which gave me some protection, just not my neck. He grabbed my helmet with his free hand and violently flipped up my visor so he could see my eyes. I'm really freaking out now. I tried to back away, but he had a firm grip on my jacket, and I was still scared. I tried to push him away and create some distance, but I didn't want to make any sudden movements with him holding a knife so close. He then moves the knife closer, pressing it against my throat, just below the helmet. I couldn't get away from him. He screamed that I was a stupid idiot who needed to remember her place and other crazy, ultra-masculine, deranged things. I'm truly scared now and still trying to back away as far as I can from the knife. But in a way, after what I had just gone through, I started to just not care. In my mind, he wanted a reaction, and I wasn't going to give him one. I eventually just started saying to go ahead and do it, to come get me. asking if that was what he wanted. With the straightest, most unemotional face I could muster up. At this point, he's getting confused. He's still wielding the knife at me, and by now, the point of it is barely grazing my face. He continued shouting that he was going to kill me and make me pay. I stare at him for a while with no reaction. I think he realized that whatever he wanted to happen wasn't going to happen. He let go of my jacket, saying he would find me and he was still going to kill me. He walks back to his car and speeds off, hitting a student's car in the process. It took me a few seconds to come back to reality. The girl in the car beside me looked at me with disbelief. All the students that arrived when I did stayed in their cars when they realized what was happening. I took off my helmet, and they got out of their cars. The students rushed over to me, apologizing, saying they were too scared to do anything when they saw he had a knife. I didn't blame them, really. That's what I wanted them to do. While this was happening, one of them phoned the campus to tell them what was going on. Another called the police. The campus also called the police, and when they arrived, the police took my statement. The cops kept asking me if I cut this guy off, or if I knew him. I said no. I didn't do anything to him, and I've never seen him before. The cops later called me and said the guy turned himself in because he saw the story on the news. We went to court, but the outcome felt too lenient. He was charged with aggravated assault and making criminal threats. The judge gave him probation, mandatory anger management, a restraining order to keep him at least 600 feet away from me, and a fine for damages. He avoided jail time, but now has a permanent record. About 7 years ago, I volunteered at a rural animal shelter and often finished late, driving home around midnight. Most of the route I took was in the countryside surrounded by dense pine forests. One night during a heavy hailstorm, when I was navigating the winding roads home, I noticed a parked sedan on the shoulder with hazard lights flashing. I pulled over about 20 feet in front of their car and got out to see what the problem was. When I got out, 2 men in their 30s stepped out of the vehicle. I asked them what the problem was, and one of the men said their car wouldn't start and asked if I could help them. I don't know what it was, but I instantly felt on edge around these guys, like I needed to be on guard or something. I asked one of them to open the hood. I expected one of them to go back in the car and pop the hood. However, one of them just sort of signaled someone in the car. That's when I really looked into the car and noticed there were 3 more people inside, all wearing dark hoodies, despite the temperature not being terribly cold. That's when I felt like something was really wrong. I opened the hood and took a quick look while hail hit the engine compartment. I noticed one of the men gave a nod to the other men in the car while sliding his hand into his jacket pocket. I was believing my instincts at that point, and that something bad was about to happen. I quickly thought up an excuse to get back into my truck. I said to them that I think I knew what the problem was with their alternator. I would just go back to my truck and get the specific wrench that I needed. One of them muttered to the other, suggesting they should just do it now, but the other shook his head. I walked back to my truck, trying to look normal while my heart hammered in my chest. I remember thinking one of the men was going to attack me from behind at any second. I could hear footsteps slowly following me through the hail. When I got close to my truck, I quickly got inside and started the engine and drove away fast. I'm glad I knew it was a trap because shortly after, a car came speeding down the road behind me with its high beams blinding me through my mirrors. Of course, it was the car claiming to be broken down. The man driving kept swerving toward my truck, almost making contact while shouting something I couldn't hear. One of the men opened their window and was throwing what I guess was rocks at my truck. The same guy throwing things then pulled out what looked like a machete and started waving it out the window, screaming that he was going to unalive me. The driver turned his car into my truck, this time making contact with my rear bumper. I had to turn my truck into their car just so I wouldn't crash off the side of the road and into the forest. I slammed on my brakes, and so did they, skidding on the wet road. Shortly after, 3 men then got out of the car and started running toward mine, one carrying what looked like a baseball bat. I heard a loud crack as something hit my tailgate. At that point, though, I had already started driving and accelerated past them, the V8 engine of my pickup easily outpowering their sedan. I don't know if I lost them or if they just gave up, as I didn't see them again after that. I drove straight to the police station and filed a report that night, my hands still shaking. I've never feared for my life as much as I did that moment. I made a trip to visit Seattle to help my sister move into her new apartment. I was driving from Phoenix to Washington, a long journey up the western US. I don't much like flying, so I decided to start driving in the late afternoon. I planned to drive through the night and make as few stops as possible. It would be a long haul, but I was determined to push through. I'm the type who doesn't like to make many stops on long car rides. Most of the Northern California section of the highway is open land, and there isn't a whole lot of traffic in a lot of it. In the early morning hours, somewhere near the Oregon border, I was basically one of the only cars on the highway. I had music blasting to keep me awake. I was making good progress. I was starting to get slightly tired, even after the energy drink I had earlier. I didn't want to pull off for more caffeine, so I just pushed through it. One moment, I was alone on the road. Suddenly, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. I was in the left lane, and the vehicle was riding my bumper, so I switched to the right lane. The driver sped up, passed by me, then slowed to match my speed as I reached his rear bumper. I started to speed up to pass him. As soon as I got in front, he swerved into my lane behind me, nearly clipping my car. I had no choice but to accelerate to create distance. I switched into the left lane, and so did he. Now I knew something was wrong. It was some old, beat-up SUV. The SUV started to flash its lights behind me. I kept driving and sped up, but I couldn't see another vehicle as far as the eye could see. The SUV behind me then switched lanes and floored it. I heard the aggressive roar of the engine passing me. He cut in front of me and started to brake. I tried to maneuver around him, but he kept blocking me. I was forced to slam on the brakes. I started to honk because it's all I could do. We were now going dangerously slow on a 70-mile-per-hour highway. I looked for an opportunity to escape, checking all my mirrors. The driver ahead put on hazards and motioned for me to pull over. I took the chance to quickly pull around as he started moving onto the shoulder. My sedan gained distance from the SUV. I hit 90, but the SUV remained visible in my mirrors. I exited the highway at the first opportunity. I stopped at the traffic light at the bottom of the ramp, hoping I'd lost them. The SUV's headlights appeared behind me. Then it pulled up to the light alongside me. The window rolled down, revealing 2 people wearing ski masks. They stared at me silently. I drove through the red light onto the main road, where other cars were present. The SUV followed me through the light. I took random turns through a small town I didn't know, eventually pulling into a gas station with people around. The SUV drove past slowly, the occupants staring at me, before finally disappearing. I was convinced they had intended me harm. I didn't catch the license plate. I'm not even sure there was a plate on the vehicle. All I know is it was a dark-colored, early 2000s Ford Explorer with a dent in the passenger door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called the local police and reported what happened. I found a 24-hour diner with a well-lit parking lot and stayed there until sunrise. I finished the drive the next morning,